Leg mich in Arsch, lasst uns froh sein, morgen ist vergebens.
Bitches.
Brummen, Brummen ist vergebens, ist das wahre Kreuz des Lebens. Das Brummen ist vergebens.
You should not criticize your government. You do not appreciate your country. If there is an inherent problem about the government, and instead of bringing it up and discussing about it so we can work our way to form a solution, you instead try to publicly humiliate the person who even dares speak ill of the government. Thus, the inherent problems of our country are left unresolved and undiscussed. They worsen by the year, and you think that you are doing a service to your country. I think that you are the unpatriotic one. I consider myself the greatest patriot of Singapore because I actually revealed to the world how much our nation sucks. And now, more citizens will be able to make a more informed decision during elections. So hopefully the government starts listening, or just lose the elections. The latter seems much more easily attainable. It was a very inappropriate time to mock Lee Kuan Yew. He just died. You're not exempted from criticism just because you fucking died. I should have been more considerate about the families and people who are grieving. Well, you didn't say the same thing when it was Osama bin Laden, and in many respects, you could argue that Lee Kuan Yew was worse. At least it was obvious to the public that Bin Laden was a bad person. The guy just died, people were thinking and talking about him, so I thought it was an absolutely perfect time. And in the context where everyone was fearful about criticizing the man because everyone was afraid that they would be mocked at, you really needed someone like me. You're just popular because of your age. If you were older, nobody would care. Now, I know that the angle that international organizations are playing with is that putting me in jail is violating child protection laws. And I'm like the youngest prisoner of conscience in Singapore, and I think like the third youngest in the world. But I'm pretty sure, and I think it's realistic to say, that my appeal transcends that of my age. You know, I'm an intellectual. I'm interesting. I have opinions. Talk to me, I'll share some. I feel that Myrna and Vertov are exceptionally overrated. I feel like Nina Paley is one of the greatest living animators. I feel like Marx and I have similar views on a utopia, only with significantly different approaches. So really, I'd still be extremely appealing even if I were like 10 years older. The young age just adds to the appeal factor. I'm really fascinating, I know. Look at all the dislikes and hate in your video. You see, I'm one of the few artists in the world that isn't a fucking sellout. My need to present an opinion honestly transcends any fear of hate that I might have. I know expressing an opinion honestly despite controversy and hate, it takes a tremendous amounts of metallic brass balls. But I endured 10 years of school. What else can't I handle? I think we need to sit down and have a proper discussion to distinct whether or not the video genuinely sucks or whether people are just pissed off that their long-established values are being demolished. And I know that in the age where PewDiePie and K-pop is readily accepted, it's quite hard. But seeing how the perception of the Lee Kuan Yew video and me turned quite significantly after a few days, especially once the video attained international news coverage, it seemed like it resonated with plenty of other people. And I think it would be wise to not take note of the comments made by a multitude of idiots and the internet brigades appointed by the government. But really, the basic tenet of a content creator is, if you are so concerned about whether or not people will like you, do not be an artist. I recommend a career in politics instead. Your hair is so messy and long. Now that's particularly funny to me because around 2 years ago, I was made fun of for being a bald Buddha. And now people are saying my hair is way too long, it looks like pubic hair. Little do they know that I do not give a conceivable fuck about what you think I look. Though it is starting to cover my eyes and get a little bit annoying, so I might trim it a little. It is interesting to me how I managed to drastically change the public perception of my physical appearance. I'm like Miley Cyrus. The only difference being I don't suck. Why do you have Lee Kuan Yew's book if you don't like Lee Kuan Yew? I also have a 700-page biography of Hitler written by John Toland. I also have a Catholic Youth Bible written by... we're not completely sure yet. If you own a book by or about somebody, you don't necessarily have to like that book. It's quite an egregious non sequitur. Why are you guys so stupid? Stop being so vulgar. People are absolutely appalled that I, in the internet of all places, would dare to use the word fuck. Oh, I actually heard some people were so hardcore they took down every line from my video, then removed all the words that were considered vulgar so that my arguments would be more digestible to older readers. What year are you living in? 2006? In our modern context of YouTube and South Park, it's very embarrassing if you're anti-Urban Dictionary. Now, your elders could get away with it because they're gonna say that because they are older, that means they're somehow more wiser. You then start talking to them, you find out they're not. In this age, if you are in any form of social gathering and somebody says the word fuck, and then you say, hey, can you stop being so vulgar? People are going to laugh at you. People are going to mock you. You are going to be the absolute loser of the clique. If you are going to completely dismiss something because it is considered vulgar, you are going to miss out on a lot of great stuff. So yes, the vulgar language stays, you judgmental cunts. Fuck. 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 Oh. You're just doing this to seek attention. Okay, that's just completely untrue and a very simplistic thing to say. I absolutely hate attention. I walk along Clock Key, dabbling with this new philosophical concept on the state of human existence, and then somebody at the side suddenly says, rock on, Amos, like, fuck, you broke my train of thought. I'm sitting in the MRT, this Indian starts coming up to me, starts shaking my hand, and then starts providing his fucking opinion about me. I support everything that you stand for, but I think that you should do it in a more polite way. Yes, tell me when I start to give a shit. In the most awkward moment in my life, this woman comes up to me and then says, hey, are you Amos E? You have to help me. I've been cheated. What the fuck am I supposed to do about it? And if I were truly an attention seeker, I would just go to every interview that was offered to me. You know how much page space the Straits Times is willing to give to me? If I hold a press conference, literally, reporters from all over the world are going to come. But I don't want to do that. I'm not in the mood. If it's that and hentai, I'm choosing the Japanese octopus. And so far, from the complete lack of interviews, I still managed to get quite a lot of attention. I mean, you can't get any cooler than being able to post stuff on Facebook while in prison, which I reiterate, nobody knows how I ever did that. So that's something new, isn't it? Generating attention not from publicity, but from actually being interesting. Quite avant-garde, I know. You're making too many hand movements. The stats you presented in the video are wrong. Now, when I presented all those stats taken mostly from Roy Ng's blog, I will fully admit that I'm not completely sure what those stats mean. For example, I mentioned income inequality, but I have absolutely no idea about economics or how income inequality is calculated. But what I did understand is the concept that if the rich becomes richer and the poor has a harder time to make ends meet, that's a bad thing. So that was enough for me to claim that there was a problem in terms of the monetary welfare of citizens. You see, when you mention specific terms about a complex topic, you give the impression that you actually know a lot about that topic, when in most cases you usually don't. Or maybe I really do know a lot, just that I don't give myself enough credit. I don't know. I don't go to school, so really every day I'm just learning. Roy Ng actually knows his stuff. He did a lot of meticulous research. Me, I just use it and take all the credit. I'm like the guy who invented the telephone. And of course, since the stats were taken primarily from one source, you could make the argument that it is unreliable and biased. But so far, from all the comments I have read, I have not seen a single one that has proven that the facts I presented in that video was wrong. So lucky me, Roy did a very good job. If you do have proofs that those facts are wrong, feel free to provide it to me. I would like to see it. You see, it's one thing to say something, it's another to actually prove it. Lee Kuan Yew has such a high reputation. What are you, Amos? Never be afraid to criticize somebody who has more money or has a higher reputation than you. Otherwise, the only time that the government will feel vulnerable is during elections. We put way too much pressure on ourselves to have the confidence to form opinions, especially when it concerns politics. You don't need that. You don't need to read an extensive analysis of the socio-economic implications of the Nazi regime or a detailed psychological analysis of Hitler's failure as a childhood artist. You just need to know, guy killed 6 million Jews, the motherfucker's an asshole. Now, many people were really intimidated that an estimated 1.5 million people turned up to mourn Lee Kuan Yew's death, like you've never seen necrophilia to this extent before. So it creates the impression that there are 1.5 million hardcore Lee Kuan Yew supporters, and I highly doubt that. You see, in that 1.5 million people, some of them were opposition supporters just curious to know what's going on. Some of them are just passing by. Many of them were children. And of course, several people who went there were just motivated by a mob mentality because, you know, it's cool to go to Lee Kuan Yew's funeral. If you go to work and say, hey, I went to Lee Kuan Yew's funeral, people are going to think you're a really kind and sympathetic person, very appreciative of your country. But of course you know that majority of the Lee Kuan Yew supporters are from the older generation, the unintelligent, uneducated idiots that soak up everything they see on television and in newspapers. Like everyone else, you buy the biography of Lee Kuan Yew, you put it on your shelf, and you use it as your personal dust collector, who you guys respect as an idealized figure portrayed by the government-run mass media that doesn't exist. You guys do not know a flying fuck about who the person you're mourning for is. Fortunately, as the years proceed, these people will eventually die, and with the advent of the internet, younger generations will have a more accurate view of the Singapore government and its leaders. So stay tuned, we're winning. You are exploiting your freedom of speech. How do you exploit freedom of speech? You either have it or you don't. There is no relative freedom of speech meter that is contingent on the amount of controversy that you create. Now, people like to consider me as a freedom of speech advocate, but if you realize initially, I didn't even fight for freedom of speech. I just thought it was there. And if we were to follow the Constitution, I would have the right to say things that piss people off and be immune to any legal action. What you instead chose to do was to send me to jail. And you know what sucks? The main thing people were pissed off about was that I insulted Lee Kuan Yew. But I wasn't punished for that. Instead, I got the heaviest punishment for the few seconds I insulted Jesus. They initially charged me for intending to cause distress to the public for insulting Lee Kuan Yew, but quite inexplicably, they eventually withdrew the charge. That's just great. I feel like Einstein when he won the Nobel Prize for the photoelectric effect instead of the general theory of relativity. Opposition supporters keep on making it seem like I was imprisoned because I insulted Lee Kuan Yew. I really wasn't, at least legally. It was for obscene image and intending to promote ill will amongst religious groups. It's easier for Han Hui and Roy Ung to discuss how much the government sucks instead of discussing whether or not God exists or the validities of anal sex, because less people can agree on the latters. Though it is reasonable to make the claim that criticizing Harry was the greatest factor that got me to be charged. We're mainly pissed off that he insulted Lee Kuan Yew, but we do not have enough legal grounds to punish him for that, so let's instead punish him for some other factors so we can portray to the public that you will be severely punished if you dare to criticize the government. Striking fear, it's what we communists do. And in my case, there was no school to punish me, no job to lose, and I am not an overly sensitive teenager that will be emotionally traumatized by the comments of a multitude of idiots. So the only way that you can fuck with me is if you use the law, even though in every other case, you never ever did so. Several of my videos that criticize religion were left unnoticed, and these videos have lines like, "To all religious groups, Christians, Catholics, Muslims, Taoists, Buddhists, Mormons, and Zeus. Not only are you stupid people, you're also horrible people." I recall that there was an entire Facebook page where the DP was an homage to my obscene image, where I am butt-fucking my mother. I don't think the guy who made that needs to plead guilty. And of course, there are previous cases of Amy Chung and Jason Yo, whom, using my case as a reference, also made comments that can be considered harassment. None of them were charged, though. So really, their choice to imprison someone is not based on harassment or sedition, or whether or not it offends religious groups, or whether or not the image is obscene. They do so because they feel like it. It's not based on a law, it's based on what they think. There really isn't any freedom of speech. Now I speculate that in some point in time, the prosecutors started to regret their decision to charge me, because seeing how I continued to criticize religion in my blog and they didn't do anything, it's quite obvious. You thought that I would just plead guilty and go on probation, and that would teach fellow citizens of Singapore a lesson about criticizing your own government. You didn't know that I would break the terms of the bail, have thoughts of suicide, and that Hong Kong would burn Lee Hsien Loong's face. But you couldn't back away in the middle of it, because then you would have to admit that you were wrong. And that's just something you can't do. So following in the footsteps of Lee Kuan Yew, let's not do things based on the consistency of the law, but whenever it seems beneficial to do so. At least now, though, I know what I still can do, and that is criticize the government. That's technically still legal. So stay tuned. Unless, of course, they try to send me back to jail again, in which case I wish you very good luck for the elections. The story of the Lee Kuan Yew video and Amos Yee will be written in the annals of Singapore history, and has quite effectively revealed Singapore's failure as a democratic society, both to its citizens and the international community. All of that from a video taken by a boy in his room with a camera in his pajamas. I know it's pretty impressive that the video before I was expressing how if this YouTube thing didn't work out, I would be royally fucked, and then the video right after immediately became viral. But my friends always knew that I was intelligent and interesting enough to be able to create content that would leave an impact, because not only do I have the intelligence, but the sense of humor to boot. I'm sorry if I constantly seem like I'm sucking my own dick. I have to do it myself since I don't have anyone to do it for me. While you guys are about to celebrate National Day, just keep in mind that this is the country that sent a 17-year-old boy to jail for an internet video. I'm just saying, maybe that will make you guys feel more patriotic. Go Singapore. Yay. People were all laughing, "Oh, you're going to have so much fun in Changi. These are going to be your new friends." Because I don't think they actually thought that I would end up in jail. But I did, so they're going to have to live with that guilt all their lives. Just look at that. That is one emotionally fucked up face. And look at that. Oh! So now the question. Will I be able to top the awesomeness that I inflicted on the world before I even reach 17? I don't know. That's not important. Probably. So after the highly traumatic experience, what now? We move on. Boats against the current, bearing ceaselessly into the past. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and was it all worth it? We'll just have to see. But I think you guys would be content to know, at least if the motherfuckers don't send me to jail again, that I'll see you for the next video. Bye!